Yeah, we're nine.
Spinach, lettuce. Y'all like
And Jim's supposed to be here.
Some years I have fruit,
Yeah,
you know, that all depends
Jim's
on
gonna
the
be
else.
here.
It was amazing how things progressed this year because
Oh, those are capital.
if I'm looking south, my
What are you
whole
mumbling
south.
about over there?
I'm just mumbling.
Over there
Days
says
it's
And the
easier to
one on
mumble.
the extreme west,
You at the hack meeting too.
the next one is just full of blooms.
Actually,
And
both
then
are fast.
Just a little further down, it got frosted. I mean, so it's just,
Sometimes it's less frustrating.
it's just like, what do I do with this?
We're missing a few.
It's just,
Pardon me?
We're
Yeah.
missing a few.
Yeah, well, it's,
some are slow, my
2
Rose and
minutes.
Sharon's are just now developing buds, just developing leaves. That's not even buds, just leaves.
flip through some of them.
Oh, lovely.
Of course, those are my wife.
irises. Oh, lovely. What is
I wonder
it?
who Green Mountain Falls is gonna get to cover. I wonder who they're gonna get
must
to cover.
love irises.
Their person resigned.
Has it set up where it goes from season to season?
Oh, this almost looks like a primrose.
Well, I think he also resigned
It's
from
called
the city.
Teresa. Is the name of it. It's Teresa Rose.
I don't know what's going on out
But
there.
this is the time of year where the iris show.
We just drove back to.
Even the water iris.
My iris got frosted, so I have no blooms. I have beautiful green stalks, but the, where the stem is.
But I do the vegetables and Teresa does all the flowers, obviously.
Oh, closer. Where does she get all these varieties?
Is it Brex or something like that she ordered from years
Yeah,
ago?
Rex.
I think it's Brex,
Yeah,
something
no,
like
there
that.
is no, I get the Gurneys and the Rex catalogs.
But she did order them. She didn't.
And then the summary
So
Look
those
at
grow in
that.
the water, but it's iris.
discussion with the board on the contracts.
Did you go to the ribbon cutting?
One of many or a solo?
That's her place. Did you see that? She's the one and only and guards it.
No, I had not. I looked at it online, but I didn't see it.
This looks like a flower home. And
Well, that was part of the conversation we had with Corey, too.
He's got to do something with that coffee shop there at the corner.
Yeah.
Pikes Peak
They
and
had the bid sheet.
Union,
All right.
southeast corner.
oh, look at that.
Out into the street, they block off that right-hand lane.
The tank for the Republicans.
Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. Sorry I was running last minute late there. Just drove back from Breckenridge and 4 or 5 days up there with my 95-year-old father-in-law and his wife, and so we had a great day, but running a little bit behind. So welcome, everyone. Let me call the meeting to order. And I'll start by reading the purpose statement of the Citizens Advisory Committee. The primary objective of the CAC is to ensure the capital maintenance and public transportation projects and programs approved by the voters during the November 2nd, 2004 and November 6, 2012 elections are accomplished with PPRTA funds. This committee reports directly to the Board of Directors. Okey-doke. We have a quorum. All alternate members may vote. So do I hear a motion to approve the agenda as presented in our packet?
So moved.
So move. Cheryl, and second? Tom, thank you. Any public comment for any items not on the agenda on the members of the committee? Any members from the public? Seeing none, we'll move on. Thank you. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes? I think I have I left before the meeting was adjourned. Did you not adjourn it?
Yeah.
I think I left before the meeting was adjourned, and so Rev, that would be a correction for Rev adjourned the meeting. That was the only thing I saw. Any other members have any comments or corrections to the agenda? To the minutes? Seeing none, with that correction, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Jean and Joan, thank you. Financial reports, Bev. Good news, Bev.
Yeah. Good afternoon. As you can see, just received the March. It's almost $8 million compared to a $7,270,000 monthly budget, or $725,000 ahead, which is 10%, and we're 9.4% ahead of the amended budget for the year to date. And we added $5 million to the First Amendment. And then the Second Amendment you'll be seeing today at $6 million, because we're still ahead of the Second Amendment. Which, how this happens is last year, for the first half of the year, we weren't receiving anywhere near what we are this year. Now, it went up in the second half, but by then we had already started our budgeting process. Since we receive monies 2 months in arrears, say our June, we receive in August, well, we start the budget process in September. So we got pretty far behind what our actual revenue was last year by the time we started the beginning of this year. So that's how that happened.
Well, the good news is we're giving out more money.
That's right. So then compared to last year, on the second page, we're almost 9% ahead for the beginning of the year. And then the next pages are the revenue and expense summary. And the final pages compare capital expenditures to date to the total capital project budget. So a little different than these other reports that are just an annual report. Those are from inception to date. And everything is within budget there. So are there any questions on the financial reports?
I noticed that the RTA 1 project completion rates are increasing, so that means you're getting the invoices, and we're finally closing out a lot of those RTA 1 projects.
Right, right. And the ribbon cutting for South Mark Shuffle was last week, so.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that was a great event. So that was awesome. Any questions for Bev on the financials?
Golf carts.
Okay, thank you, Bev. So you want to step right into the investment committee report?
Yes, thank you. So just a recap of what's happened so far is interest rates have been inching up. So we moved most of our money that was in a government money market called a PPRTA account from American National Bank, where we have our checking account, over to Colo Trust. And we're receiving 1.06% in that type of, it's called a government pool. And it has certain security to it, like the PPRTA, but not exactly like it. But anyway, that's what the investment committee recommended to the CAC and the board in the last couple months. Now today we're recommending, or the investment committee is recommending, moving, we have two $10 million CDs, and moving one of them that's a really low rate over to Colo Trust also. So the investment committee voted to do that, and so we're coming to the CAC and the board about that. But on the page 3 of this little memo, you can see the calculation, which was the date of the investment committee meeting, was that Colo Trust had 1.04, and the CD maturing at the end of this year only had 0.35. So then the difference of 0.69 times the $10 million, annually it would be $69,000, but the 6 remaining months, and it'll be a little bit longer than that if the board approves it next week, but is almost $35,000, and then there is a forfeiture amount of $8,630. So we're up almost $26,000, and now that rate is 1.06, so then it would be up almost $27,000. So that is what we're thinking. It makes sense to just cash it out now and move it over to Colo Trust.
Reb?
I'd like to make a motion to approve this positive recommendation.
Second.
Cheryl, second that. Any discussion regarding this transaction or recommendation? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Bev, you're up again.
Yes, okay, the 2017 amended budget for the second time, and normally we would only have one, but because we had so much revenue, we had an additional one earlier so that the member governments could get it out there contracted for and the improvements done this year. So this time, we always have one at this time because the audit is finished, and it confirms what I had as the rollovers for all the line items, both maintenance and capital. And so we would do this one no matter what, whether we had additional revenue or not. But because the sales and use tax is so robust this year, we're adding another $6 million worth of additional sales and use tax on page 1. And then there's a 10% reserve that we take out of it. So we're allocating the $5.4 million to capital, maintenance, and transit by their percentages, and then the capital by the original 2012 project percentages that were in the original or the second ballot measure. And then the maintenance according to the census, 2010 census. So page 2, 3, and 4 just show the total budget in columnar format with the first starting with the expenditure carryovers. And what this means is unspent prior period revenue per line item. And this is what one of the things that the auditors confirm. So that's in the first column. The 2016 revenue carryover, what that is revenue that exceeded 2016 budget. And then the next column, additional 2017 revenue, Amendment 1 was the $5 million that I talked about earlier. 2017 is the $6 million that was on page 1. And then it's the allocation of that revenue to the line items below. And then the 2017 original budget that was approved in December, and then any line item transfers that occurred this year or are occurring with this amended budget. And there's one line item transfer that has not been heard yet, but will be today, and Mike can discuss it. It's under the city, and it's from Academy Bijou to airport road reconstruction. From there to, see if I can read across here, Circle Bridge, eastbound over Hancock Bridge rehabilitation, and that's in Mike's memo. So that summarizes it. There's no change to the administrative budget that I'm requesting. And if you don't have any questions for me, we'll have Mike come up and start with the city.
Any questions of a general nature? Yes, Gene?
Quick comment. On page 1, items 8 through 12, column 2012, top 8%. The numbers below are not considered for decimals.
The what?
For decimals, as opposed to a percentage, I believe.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Mr. Nevertoil.
That's a good point. Thank you. Calculates the same, but yeah, it's not the percentage there. Okay.
Any other general comments? Okay, Mike, you want to take off on the cities?
Yeah, just a second.
Oh, sorry.
So much fun. Oh. Okay, Mike Chavez, City Engineering. We're here to just go over our request for the additional surplus. So what we're looking at there is, on the capital side, we've got 2.1 million and change that we're looking at putting into two projects. We're looking at putting 1.7 million into the Pikes Peak reconstruction from Shooks Run to Prentice Parkway. We're looking at bidding that very soon, and so we are anticipating the cost to be a little bit higher than the original ballot language. We will be bringing, per the new policy, explanation and kind of a presentation probably next month on that.
Okay.
Mike, didn't you borrow money and put towards, when I say borrow money, get a transfer of money from this project because you weren't prepared to do it and put some of it towards West Colorado?
Yeah, and some others in Centennial
Yeah, so
reconstruction.
You're kind of paying that project back.
Yes.
So, but this indicates that 1.7 is coming from the 5 or 6 million, this is from the $6 million new budget, right?
The additional.
So it doesn't take into account, and I don't have a figure off the top of my head, but for the sake of the discussion, you took 500,000 out of Pikes Peak and put it on West Colorado. No problem. So quote, literally, do you ever make that money up? Because it's costing more for West Colorado.
Like I said, next month we'll bring a presentation of what we think Pikes Peak reconstruction would cost and how we're looking at funding it.
Okay.
So basically, we've kind of just put the original $8 million back into that project.
So you're kind of paying it back from the line item transfers you've done over the last year?
Yes.
Okay.
The other project we're looking at putting in is we're looking at putting in $400,000 into the on-street bikeway project. We have a project coming up that we're going to need that money. It's one of the contracts that we'll be talking about a little bit later. And then I do want to do a line item transfer from the Academy Boulevard Reconstruction Project to the Circle Avenue Bridge. We have one of the Circle Bridges shut down now. We've had some rocker bearing failure, and so we closed it about a month ago and did just a quick fix, and we're back there putting in new bearings. But that whole project, that's about a $13 million project. We want to accelerate that project just because it's getting a little tenuous, so we want the $500,000 to start some design on that project. And then on the maintenance side, we've got $1.3 million that we'll just put into our maintenance pool and use that for our typical maintenance, concrete paving, and bridge maintenance.
Okay. Any, oh, yeah, Rev just pointed out, on the street bikeway improvement program, just keep in mind policy number 10.
Yes, and we'll be talking about that
Okay,
in a little bit here.
thank you. Any questions for Mike on the city's proposed Amendment 2 allocation? Okay, County? Who's next?
Dennis.
Good afternoon, Dennis Barron from El Paso County. I'm here for Jennifer Irvin today. She's out of town today. So our allocation of the new revenues is going back to Beacon Light Road. We had taken money at the end of 2016 from Beacon Light Road to help fund the West Colorado Avenue award of the construction contract, and we're in the process of our 3 supplemental revenue allocation things are going back to repay the money that we took out. So,
Okay,
and maintenance just went into our maintenance budget. I think there's another $500,000 or so for this year. So,
okay. Cheryl?
Dennis, what part of Beacon Light Road? I thought Beacon Light Road was within the city limits of Monument.
it's from County Line Road
Oh,
down toward. I'm not sure the exact limits, but it starts at County Line Road and goes down.
and that's within, of course, it's in El Paso County, but it's
Yeah.
outside the city limits of
Right.
Monument. Okay.
Dennis, while you're there, thank you for that great ribbon cutting ceremony the other day. It was great to see that project. I finally drove it to the end after that ceremony, and what an improvement in
Turned
that
out pretty
stretch
good.
of road. So
Thank you.
great job.
Thank you. Well, a lot of people involved. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Any other questions for Dennis from the county? So next, we've got Manitou Springs. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Thank you. Shelley Cobaugh, Public Services Director for the City of Manitou Springs. Thanks for the extra money. We appreciate it. We can use it. The extra money that we're getting for maintenance funds is going to cover some street striping. We can't afford equipment, so we have a 5-year renewable contract with Colby Striping. We're going to be doing regular striping in Manitou, maybe for the first time ever, so that's kind of cool. So thank you for enabling us to do that. And we thought we were going to have to find funding somewhere else, but that was a really pleasant surprise. Our capital fund, the additional revenue allocations, we're going to put it all into the Manitou Avenue West End pedestrian and drainage improvements, which we call Manitou Avenue 5C, which is Manitou Avenue from Tubby's turnaround at Park to Serpentine Roundabout in Manitou. I just did receive the IGA from CDOT on Friday.
You're turned off. Oh, okay.
So we'll be moving forward with getting that design. Hopefully, a design team under contract will get the design of that done this year and hopefully go to construction next year. So that's exciting. And other than that, I'll stand for questions.
Any questions for Manitou's reallocation? Thank you very much, Shelley. Appreciate it.
Actually, sorry, I do have one question, if I could.
Thanks, Rick.
I'm trying to remember, at some point, the PPRTA provided the City of Colorado Springs funds for a striping machine. Is that correct? With the understanding that member governments could share that if they so needed. Have you looked into that possibility?
I have not looked into that possibility. I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. That might be something, because it might end up being a cost savings for you guys, that you could shift that money to.
Okay, I'll look into that. I would like to say we did have an incident on Ruxton where I had staff stripe with our little striping machine, and the guy who was striping every time a bus came by, but I did one of these. And so we ground it down. It took us like 4 days, and you can imagine the trip traffic in that corridor. It was an ugly traffic control problem. And El Paso County came to the rescue and striped Ruxton for us. So that was really
That's
cool
nice.
of Jim Reed and Dennis and everybody's. But I'll hit the city up.
I was going to say, I saw the city folks going.
Good deal. I'll hit them up.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Good luck. Thank you. Green Mountain Falls, it looks like they've got something in our proposal you're going to add to this.
Yeah, there's a couple of memos, one from Rama and then Green Mountain Falls, and you can kind of, it's pretty self-explanatory. But they're adding, let's see, they're splitting for capital the amendment money for the amendment to 50% between Belvedere and 50% between Stilling Basins. For the first amendment, they took the additional revenue that they were allocated and put it towards Stilling Basins. So that gives them their capital, and then the maintenance is just for their regular maintenance that they do. Road enhancements, chemicals, and materials. They do a lot of their own work.
Yes, they do.
They have a grader up there, and a lot of the roads are gravel.
Well, we would expect a full accounting of the $594.
All righty. Okay, and then the town of Rama, they just have one capital project, so their additional funds go to their repaving, which I think El Paso County is going to help them do, and then their maintenance is very much the same as the town of Green Mountain Falls. Now, we haven't gone over the transit.
Transit, yes. Brian, do you want to address that?
Good afternoon, Brian Vituli with the City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metro Transit. For the $540,000 that is expected to come with Amendment 2, we're planning to use a little over $24,000 to match federal 5310 grant to support the joint call center operation. And we also have a number of fixed route service improvements options that are available, some that will determine what gets implemented will be determined by what happens during the public process. So we normally have our public process in January of next year, so we'll be able to implement whatever options or combination of options that are listed in the memo. Currently we're working with Memorial Hospital and the upcoming Children's Hospital on a partnership to have some type of service to that facility. Those talks are ongoing, so we'll see what transpires out of that. But we're looking to have possibly a service on Union Boulevard. This is something that we've been getting requests for many years. We'd like to add frequency on one route from 30 minutes to 15 minutes, whether that's Route 27, which goes on South Academy Boulevard from the Citadel to Pikes Peak Community College, or Route 1, which is another route that goes into the southeastern part of the city. We'll let the public outreach program and process determine what gets implemented. We're looking to add Saturday service on Route 32, which goes into the Security Widefield area and unincorporated El Paso County, and some other Sunday and Saturday evening service options. We get a lot of requests for people who work on off-peak hours, weekday evenings or Saturdays and Sundays for service. And it's a balancing act because, while there is a need, some of the routes that they're asking for service on just don't really warrant service because of ridership levels. So we're trying to balance, the need and the amount of money we have and where we can have the most impact. So what's good about the evening and weekend service is we don't need additional vehicles. So usually we have less service on the evenings or the weekends, so we can use those vehicles that we have. And this fall, we'll be having 15-minute service on Route 25. So that's on North Academy. So we could possibly have the entire Academy Boulevard with 15-minute bus service. So.
And am I correct that in all of these adjustments, you're always weighing the option of being able to sustain those new things once you implement them right?
Absolutely, yeah. We like to project out that we would have enough to keep these operating for 3 to 5 years, no matter what happens in the economy. Yes.
Right.
On the Union service, are you looking full length of Union, north to south?
Well, what we're looking at, this is part of the discussions with Memorial Hospital is if we can fund the service, say, from Boulder up to Academy.
Right.
So we'll have it bookended with 15-minute service, 25 on North Academy and Route 5 on Boulder. So we'd have good connections. That's something that we think that we can fund. And then if the hospitals play with us,
Supplemental.
perhaps they could supplement it going north on Union to Memorial. So.
Okay. We'll see where that goes.
Yep.
I think that Union kind of splits that north-south. You've got a good connection at Academy already with a good service. A loop that would run up there would kind of introduce service into Briargate, and it passes a couple of schools. And it also opens up an opportunity for a future connectivity at Woodman and Union if you were to go extend the Woodman route out to Penrose, St. Francis at some future, providing some service to that northern section of town I think would be great.
Right. Yeah, and then, keeping in mind that our 2040 transit plan says that if we're going to expand outside of our existing service area, that we really seek out those partnerships, and that's really important to help make our dollars go farther, because we have our core services, which are not stellar. We're trying to improve those, but we would like to improve that first before we expand outward. And this Union Boulevard service, if you look at our transit service map, we have Academy Boulevard and we have the Nevada Cascade Corridor, and there's a huge gap in the middle for routes going north and south. So this would fill that in very nicely.
Quick question. I've driven by the park and ride at Black Forest and Woodman there, and that's fairly new. If I remember correctly, within the last
Yeah,
year or so.
year and a half, 2
Yeah.
years, yeah.
It doesn't seem to be getting a lot of usage, and I actually talked to some folks who I sold the house live in the adjacent subdivision. They didn't even know it was there, and they drive by it all the time. Are we doing any kind of local outreach, or how are we getting, when we build these new facilities like that, are we getting any information? I know the city has started to use the Nextdoor program, online social
Right,
community. Are we looking into possibly doing something like that, your PIO putting out information that way?
Yeah, we do try to, I mean, we include it on all of our materials, and, we don't have any transit services serving that. Back at the time when those
Is that
grants
kind of
were
why?
received,
Yeah.
yeah, we did have service out that way.
Right.
And so the idea was to have it, connect or have people be able to park there and use transit services. But
Black Forest and Woodman? Yeah.
Yep. It's actually come into play with trying to provide service to Penrose Hospital, the Northern Hospital, that we could have some type of service, serve the park and ride in the hospital. Penrose has not really expressed any interest in transit service there. So, yeah, we do, note it on our maps, and I believe we have a link to the park and ride study that was done several years ago. But, yeah, it could probably use a little bit of marketing in some way.
Well, we've got because of our kind of spread out nature, you guys have some serious challenges trying to cover everybody, because you look at obviously we've got that gap out into Falcon, and I know that there are some folks out there who would appreciate transit service, but trying to deliver in a regional fashion has been a huge challenge. It's one of those things, and there's got to be some way we can, hopefully in the near future, since the economy is improving, hopefully we can take advantage of the regional transit plan that we worked on several years ago, and maybe take the lessons that we learned from that study and plan that was developed, and maybe hopefully implement them, and get some of the smaller jurisdictions or larger, El Paso County, for instance, involved in. But I don't foresee that really happening while the city itself retains control of Metro. It's got to become a regional solution, and unless the city is planning on expanding way out into the county, which I don't foresee.
And anything's possible with funding. So,
Isn't that always the
but
case?
that's what's restricting, expansion into the region.
Any other questions for Brian on Tom, I'm sorry.
Brian, I've got a question. I don't know if anybody in the country is doing this, but if somebody, for instance, one of your riders is working a Tuesday through Sunday arrangement, and you don't have service there on Sunday, is there ever an area where somewhere in the country gives a picture ID for a cab ride or something like that from where their work is to where they normally would get off the bus as a service to that person, to sort of continuance of the bus service, but it's a different way of getting it done? Because that'd be cheaper than running a bus for one person.
Yeah, it's not really for able-bodied passengers. I mean, there are taxi options and the ADA paratransit, but those are aligned with our fixed route service and when they operate, and
Right.
they're out of luck too when we don't operate our fixed route service. So it's a challenge. We don't currently have anything like
I
that.
mean, you
and
might
it's-
look at it as an experiment in one area or something like that
Right.
for a quarter or something like that.
Yeah,
See what,
yeah,
if
and
it grows the loyalty of your client base, it might be worth it.
right. Yeah, and other options are, not operating a fixed route service. If it's a an area that's very well disconnected from our existing service area, maybe a call-in ride or some other type of lower-cost option would work better. And that's something we've been thinking of, as a way to serve the northern part of the city. So, yeah, we will certainly look at that when we get to it.
The other question I've got is you talk about an HSP communications center. What does HSP stand for?
That's a human service providers.
Okay.
It's Community Intersections, Amblicab, Silver Key, and Fountain Valley Senior Center.
Okay.
Currently, they're housed in our ADA paratransit building. We renovated the second floor of that building and moved them into that. And so this is going to further develop the operations there for them.
Any other questions for Brian? Thank you, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Bev, back
So what we're looking for is a positive recommendation to the board. A positive recommendation to the board to approve the budget as presented.
Joan,
So moved.
Second.
second for Lawrence. All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. motion
Thank you.
carries. Thank you. Thanks, Beth. Thank you, participants. And I'd like to say thank you to the city for, whoever was responsible for it was making the two presentations with the county and the city show that you show the whole line and all your adjustments and that they are the same and easy to compare. So thank you for whoever that was responsible for that. So thanks. It was very, very easy to read. All righty, next item, city capital maintenance, public transportation contract, City of Colorado Springs.
Good afternoon again, Mike Chavez, City Engineering. We've got, is that me?
I don't know.
Or this? I got,
It's your electric.
yeah,
it's
yeah,
Corey's
it's my electric. We got several types of contracts. The first five we've brought back are the equipment rental contracts that we had brought up last month, and there was a couple of concerns. So we've lowered the change order amount to $200,000, which is the RTA kind of policy, what we've been doing on all the different on-calls. And then we provided the list of equipment and rates. So if there's any questions on that, I'll probably let Corey handle those.
I have a question, and this may be for Rick. Last month, we approved for 30 days a $100,000 limit. They've come back with the information, which is fine, don't mind. So do we just approve an additional 100,000? I guess it's a point of clarification.
Is this additional 200 or a total of 200? So we're only really approving an additional 100.
Let's first hear what the intent from city staff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so what we would be looking at is a total of 200.
Okay.
Not an additional 200 to the 100 that you've already approved.
Okay. Okay. It means this was a point of discussion. The board accepted, after discussion, accepted our recommendation from last month, honoring our request for some additional information, and the city has provided that. Thank you, Corey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so since I don't want to bifurcate this whole thing if we don't have to, but because those were contentious, I'll open up. Any comments or questions? Did the people that had concerns last month, are your concerns now answered? They are? Looking around the room and seeing head nods? Okay. Okay. All right. You can keep going, Mike.
All right, then the next, item 6, we've got a construction contract for some RTA maintenance, and it's to do some storm drain work underneath 26 in Cucharas for EEC for $29,000. And there's a description, a very detailed description of what they're going to do there in the memo.
Okay.
Then there's another one for a pipeliner for CNL Water Solutions in Venta Street, and that one's for $25,000.
Okay.
Next one, item 8, we are looking at doing some surface improvements and bike lanes on Pikes Peak between Nevada and Corona. And we'll talk about the project itself, but basically, we're trying to get that work done ahead of 2C paving that's planned in August. And so we have that work out to bid, but they won't be opening bids till next week, I think the 20th. And it's getting pretty tight, so rather than wait for the July board to try to get the actual contract approved, what I'm seeking is if we get authorization to award that with a maximum of $600,000 of RTA money. There's also $580,000 of city money in this project.
Okay, so you're looking for a to-be-determined contractor based on bid opening, but you're looking for approval of 600K,
Yeah.
up to 600K?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll report to you what it actually is, but I just think if we wait until next month, we're going to not be able to make our deadline. I did in the memo put an option that we could do an email vote when we actually open bids. I think Rick would rather not do that, but we just wanted, to have an option in case there was some concern about.
Yeah, those are your two options. Either Rick Sonnenberg. We have a history of doing both of the options that I'm about to mention. One is to approve what Mike just mentioned, a not-to-exceed dollar amount with a not yet determined vendor name, and then you would be approving that as option one, within them reporting to you who the vendor was and what the exact dollar amount was at the next meeting. That's option one. Option two is we can do, the attorneys have allowed this at the board level, so I'm assuming that'd be allowed at the CAC level, to have an email meeting where I email out what the city staff has provided with regard to the dollar amount and the vendor name, and then the CAC members report back to me. And then we would do the same with the board, because the board meeting would be on the 14th, and you're not having the bid opening until the 20th. So we'd have to do email meetings with both the CAC and the board, with the known vendor and the known dollar amount. And then in July, the CAC and the board would have to ratify what the email polling resulted in.
Okay.
Those are your two options.
Okay. I personally don't see anything wrong with the approach that's being requested. Does anyone else have any qualms or questions or concerns?
We've done it in the past.
We've done it in the past, Rev.
I have one quick point. You're actually reducing from 4 lanes to 2 lanes from Nevada out, and I'm not sure I know where Corona is. That just below the old St. Francis Hospital?
Yeah, and Kathleen's going to talk a little bit about the project.
Kathleen Krager, City Traffic Engineer, and this is to provide you for the information that you need for Policy 10 on this, which is because it is a road diet project. This is actually a repaving project in the city on Pikes Peak Avenue from Cascade to Corona/Colorado. If you think about Pikes Peak downtown, it curves around and connects with Colorado Avenue at the Catalyst campus site, or the old train station. So it's that section of Pikes Peak that goes from that curve on Colorado Avenue across to Cascade, where it ends as it goes into the Antlers. And the city will be repaving all of that. And as part of the repaving, we will be road dieting from its current 4-lane configuration to a 2-lane configuration.
East of Nevada?
All of it, all the way from Cascade to Colorado. This is to provide bike lane connections in the area that are suitable to go with parking. And it is consistent with our 2 overlying plans in the area, which is the Downtown Master Plan and the Envision Shooks Run Master Plan. So this is something that the city has planned for quite a while now and would like to do. The portion that we're spending PPRTA money on is simply from Nevada to Colorado Avenue. So let me tell you about that section specifically, because that's where the PPRTA money gets spent. That section of Pikes Peak Avenue has less than 10,000 vehicles a day on it, so it's certainly suitable volume-wise to be 2 lanes instead of 4 lanes. We have run level of service analysis for both AM and PM peak hour at all of our signalized intersections. They all currently operate at level of service B, which is very good for an urban area, especially downtown. And with the road dieting, they will continue to operate at level of service B. Once again, very good for an urban area. We will not be changing any turn lanes. Whatever turn lanes are currently provided will still be provided after the road diet. It is simply a through lane that is being removed. The section from Nevada to Colorado Avenue, we will be adding a raised median in the middle that looks very similar to the median that's on Pikes Peak between Cascade and Nevada, and will allow for diagonal parking. And then on each side of the street, we will have parallel parking, followed by a parallel parking protected bike lane, and then the curb and gutter and sidewalk. So in other words, the parking lane actually protects the bicyclists from through traffic. There is, in addition, a buffer area so that passengers that open their car door without looking can open their car door and not hit a bicyclist.
The cars,
The cars are next to the parallel parking area, and then you have the bike lane, and then you have the curb and gutter.
okay. So
It
they're
is-
the left side of the parked vehicles, okay.
Right. That is considered the preferred bike lane to construct these days. We don't have any of them in Colorado Springs, so these will be our first, and we'll have a chance to see how they function here.
What about from Nevada to Cascade?
Nevada to Cascade, we will continue to have diagonal parking both in the middle and on the sides, but we will be taking the outside through lane and basically splitting it in half. Half of it will be a buffer for the diagonal parking that's street side, and the other half will be a bike lane. So if you are parking on a diagonal parking spot in front of La Baguette or the movie theater, you will have 5 feet to back up to see what you're about to hit, and then you'll go through the bike lane and then into the through lane. So it will actually be a much easier situation for people to use that diagonal parking, because the biggest problem that we have with diagonal parking is that you constantly end up parking next to a car or a truck or an SUV that's bigger than you and you can't see around. This gives you that extra 5 feet to see around them.
So that section will just be a single lane of traffic then?
That's right, with the same turn lanes that it currently has. So if it currently has a right turn lane, it will have a right turn lane in the future.
And they just finished the water main work down there on that
They
section, right?
They have finished the water main work, and they are currently working on a new storm sewer line. So as soon as they're done with that storm sewer line, we need to get in and do the concrete work for the new median and get that set up so that the city can come in and pave all of Pikes Peak.
Any questions on that item number 8? I'd like to make just a comment not related to that, but since you're here and you brought it up.
Mhm.
Woodman and the starting of Rock Rimmon, where as you're coming eastbound down the hill and you approach Woodman on Rock Rimmon, you split a lane there and created a bike lane. There's a lot of people that still use that as a car lane, but there's not a chevron, a biking chevron to further up. Is there a possibility of putting another one to let people know that this is just not an unusual travel lane?
I know exactly what you're talking about, and what happened there is that the turn lanes did not get the little hook on the end of them to tell people. You'll still have people drive through it, but at least they'll know that they're doing something wrong. I've already put a work order in for that for the striping crews, but unfortunately, Corey keeps those striping crews awfully busy, so it's on their list, and I'm just waiting for it to be done.
It's not a major thing. There's a lot of people that are just used to driving into that lane and pulling over and going
No,
straight there.
it's a simple mistake that the hooks didn't get put in, and so that needs to be done.
Okay. All right.
Thanks for bringing it up.
Okay. Any discussion on that? If not, you want to do number 9, Mike?
Yes, and the last item we have was a change order to our missing sidewalk program. We had been planning to put sidewalk on one side of Arcadia from the limits, which are, I forget what they are, let me turn to the memo. From San Miguel to Taylor Elementary. That also happened to be one of the areas where there was a Tabor refund stormwater project. So we're combining the two programs and doing the sidewalk and also the stormwater improvements with the money from the water resources. So that we're adding it to even Pricer's contract, since they were slated to do that several work anyway.
Okay. Any comments, questions, concerns on the city's recommendation or request? Reb? Yep.
The contracts all be accepted as presented with the following revisions. Items 1 through 5 to reflect a total contract order of $200,000 as presented, and what we approved last month be part of that $200,000.
Just a clarifying statement that it's really an additional $100K, not an additional $200K that they.
Yeah, we can put some total. That's a total.
Put that in a
That's
memo or
where-
something?
yeah.
Okay.
One quick question there. What is the other in this case? In other words, in the first case, it took me half an hour while Kathleen was up there talking about it, because my church happens to be involved in that. She was talking about Pikes Peak west of where I deal with, but regardless. And she said the $580,000 in that case was the cities. Where's the other from the North Arcadia? What is it?
Oh, it's water resources, so it's part of the Tabor refund that got voted in April.
That's fine. I didn't know.
Okay.
Judge.
So Reb has made a motion. Do I hear a second? Tom, with the revision of that you just clarifying the memo that the total is 100, so this is just an additional 100K. Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, Mike.
Okay.
Thank you, Corey, and staff. Kathleen?
Okay, and actually, I had a quick question in regard to policy 10. I was looking at the meeting minutes, and it said staff needs to come to the board. But that also, does that infer that CAC also?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
You don't get out.
No, because I just saw, I had Kathleen come to talk about it, but I would have liked to have brought some visuals.
That's fine.
So we just want to make sure we're covered next
You
time.
know what, yeah, I was going to say, if we could get some visuals next time,
Yeah.
because I was having a hard time visualizing what was being talked about.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda would be member governments and other reports, City of Colorado Springs Transit monthly update.
I know it's electronic. You had the new copy.
She
Wasn't expecting you to get through that quickly. Sorry about that. Brian Vituli, City of Colorado Springs, Mountain Metro Transit, with your monthly transit report. For our fixed route services for the month of April, comparing that to April of 2016, we provided almost 251,000 one-way trips, which was an increase of a little over 4%. For our ADA paratransit service, we transported almost 13,000 passengers, which was about a 4.4% decrease from April of 2016 to April of 2017. And for our van pool services, we operated 23 van pool vans in April and provided almost 3,100 one-way trips. And we're starting to report the performance a little bit differently here. So you'll see on the bottom of that table, be riders per revenue service hour. You'll still see somewhat of a decrease of 3.3% as compared to 3.8% between the 2 years and 2 months of April. Project update, the downtown transit station relocation. The mayor-appointed steering committee is continuing to meet. They had their last meeting Monday, May 23rd. Information's being finalized. We're setting up a meeting sometime within the next several weeks here, before the end of June, to meet with the mayor. And the steering committee will then give the mayor their recommendation for which site to proceed on. And, the three sites that are being discussed by the steering committee are site in the southwestern corner of Colorado and Sawatch, so bordered by Sawatch and Sierra Madre. The site directly across from the Pioneers Museum, where the old Colorado Springs Health Partners building is, and then the two blocks of Pueblo Avenue. So those are the three sites that came out of last year's relocation study and that the steering committee started to work on. So we're very close to having a decision on that, and we're very excited to get to the next step. So, are there any questions?
Any questions, Brian?
Actually, just wanted to say really quick, I'm really pleased to see the increase in ridership, even though the economy is better and gas prices are still low.
Right.
So that tells me you guys are doing something really good. Because we're seeing an increased ridership and usability. And Vanpool hasn't dropped that much.
Right.
So that's also a good
Right,
thing.
right, yeah.
People are finding these useful services.
Right. Yeah, we're very pleased because nationwide there is a growing trend with a lot of transit agencies having reduced ridership, and they're looking to restructure their services, restructure their routes, and raise fares and all of that. And we have the opposite situation here. So we're very pleased, and there's a lot of factors that go into that. And we have a much smaller system, and we're actually still rebuilding from a very bare bones system of a couple of years ago. So, but yeah, with fuel prices being low for a long period of time, usually you do see a decrease in ridership. And we had a very mild winter. February, March, and April were really mild, and so our wintertime ridership was much higher than it normally is. So, yeah, good.
Well done.
Well, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Before we go to the next item, I'm sorry Kathleen and them got out of here, but Mike, would you please pass along my appreciation for the extra work and the details that Corey and the group provided to help move that issue forward. So please thank them for that.
That was good information.
Okay. Member Government, City of Colorado Springs monthly change order and property acquisition.
Mike Chav, City Engineering. We have two task orders that we just put on the change order log for your information. We had talked when we issued these on-call consultant ones that we would report on them. So those are two task orders that were issued. One of them's for the Briargate project. We're going to be adding the third westbound lane on Briargate so that you get 3 lanes going across Voyager. And the other one is some improvements on 21st Street, bike trail improvements, and also just adding some curb and gutter and trying to fix up that little section of 21st that's in pretty bad shape.
Are these capital or maintenance?
They're design contracts. They're capital.
Design. Any questions for Mike? Thank you, Mike. Quarterly report from member governments. Mr. Rick, I got to tell you, I personally really enjoy looking through this. I don't read every word, but, so, the people that put this together, this is us, our information as a committee to our constituents of what's going on and what's happening with RTA money, and I keep every one of these until the next one comes out, so this is an awesome product.
It's a good reference.
Quarterly reports, just an information item. I'll take any questions you might have.
Rick?
Yes?
The very final page, I don't understand. It's the 2017 City of Colorado Springs PPRTA on-call and cost share. What is that all about?
So basically, Street Division provides a list of all the addresses where they did concrete work. And so this, earlier this year in the first quarter, we did RTA work with the on-call program, which is basically a smaller program where there's requests. So instead of the normal maintenance, there's someone called and had a request. And then there's also a cost share where if somebody is kind of down on the list, they're not as high a priority. If they're willing to split the cost, we will have 50-50. We'll have our cost share contractor go out there and do the work. So this is just a report of where.
Gutter, or is this sidewalks?
It's mostly curb and gutter and some sidewalk. So it's just a list of where the work was done this quarter, and it was not a whole lot. Usually the list is quite a bit bigger.
Thank you.
Before Mike runs away, I did have a quick question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but I'd hate to guess and provide any false information. The caissons on page 5, with,
No.
I'm assuming the change in the caissons is to accommodate the larger light poles that we're using now, and accommodate the wind issues that we have, because now it appears instead of wires we're using line arms.
Well, we actually, a few years ago, updated our caisson design. They are bigger and deeper, and they also have steel. Some of the older caissons didn't have steel in them.
Okay.
And I think on Powers, there was a couple incidents where some poles got pulled or fell over. So that's why they're,
Okay.
when we build them,
So
they're
pretty
much,
much kind of what I was thinking.
yeah. Even the wire ones put a lot of tension in. So we just have a beefier caisson to make sure those things stay in place.
Sounds good, thanks.
Any questions for Mike or Rick on the quarterly reports? All right, administrative actions and reports, report on board actions. Any,
The highlights are in the memo in your packet. I'll be glad to take any questions.
I must say that the discussion was robust and fruitful at the last one regarding the whole equipment thing and that kind of stuff. And so, again, the board expressed their appreciation for us asking the tough questions and not passing along something that wasn't clear to us. And so they appreciated our diligence in doing our job. So compliments to you guys. Rick?
8B, topics for joint meeting with the board, and similar to prior years, we're proposing to have a joint meeting with the board after their regular board meeting next Wednesday, tentatively scheduled for 3 o'clock. Well, no, maybe 2:30. So that would give them about an hour. So, as we've done in years past, opening it up for discussion of proposed topics for that meeting.
Rick?
There are four new board members, two of which come from the county, two newly elected
Can you
county.
speak up?
I can't hear you.
I'll whisper in your ear. There are four new board members. Two of them are from the county commissioners from districts 3 and 4.
Mark
And we
Waller and Stan Vanderwerf.
No, Stan and Longinos.
Oh, I know.
Mark's
yes.
been here
Yes,
for
A few extra
or
months,
so.
yes.
And then 2 from the city are Yolanda Avila and David.
Geislinger,
David.
I think he likes Dave. I think
Okay,
I've heard
Dave.
Yeah.
Dave G. And so I would propose that we jointly discuss with them the role of CAC as we understand it and what they want from us, how we can best serve them and their districts as a topic.
Okay.
Cheryl?
I realize that, at least I think I do, that the city, the member governments cannot hire people and their salaries cannot come out of PPRTA funds. Is that correct?
Correct.
But I look at the, how much revenue we've brought in and how much has gone out, and it's like 24% of our revenue has come in, but only 3% has gone out towards projects. And my concern is, how can we get this moving along a little faster? Does that make sense? If we can't hire if they can't hire employees to manage the contracts, oversee the construction, inspections, and all that kind of stuff, how can they move through all of the projects, whether it's maintenance or capital, to go further? To get more
Could I try and answer that question for you?
Okay.
Okay, they are trying, they asked us for approval to approve a contract ahead of time. Literally, it's similar to the state. We don't get our revenue from the state back for 2 to 3 months.
Right.
Okay, and then they report it. It's the same with invoices. By the time we hire Rick to do the job, he goes out and does the job, gives the information to his office, whomever, and they turn around and bill the entity, the city, in turn turns around and gives it to PPRTA. There is a lapse. Also, there's no such thing as a shovel-ready, as a previous fearless leader of our country. There's no such thing as a shovel-ready project.
I understand that. But my question is, we're reporting revenue 2 months behind, and it's at 24% of budget already. That was through March. But we've only expended like 3%.
But there's no such thing as a shovel-ready project.
Oh, I understand that. If you look at the thing, it says in design, and then they say not started, not started, not started.
Just 1 second, Scott. My observation is that the percent of projects in work or under contract is been fairly consistent. And so this particular year of getting started is not alarming, not unusual or alarming. And we also must consider that 2C has taken driven the timing of some projects so that they don't, the coordination between 2C and RTA and utilities has, in my discussions with Corey and others, has slowed down some projects being implemented because they want to get all the underground stuff done
Right,
before.
but it has to be designed, and so
Right.
if it's in design, it's moving forward. But if it's not started, that means it's not preliminary, not final, no coordination is necessary because they haven't got a design, so.
Unless, did Tom
Scott, did you want
or
to?
Scott?
Yeah. I was just going to say that, when you see these overall project budgets, 80% of that is construction generally.
Right.
So the first year or two after a project is started, you're not going to see
Correct.
more than 10 to 20% of that budget for that project get spent. So,
I get that. But
so I
when you
think
see
the
a
lag
column-
is between the design and engineering of a project and when it actually goes to construction, you start seeing the big monthly invoices.
Right, but when you see the report that says not yet started, which means it hasn't gone to design, which means you can't have a contract for a contractor. So how do you get these projects started faster, is my question.
Okay, I'll take a stab at that. From day one when PPRTA passed, I'm vaguely remembering a letter from then city manager Lauren Kramer, back when the city had city managers, saying, now that this PPRTA thing has passed and all this money is going to roll in, we at city staff, this is Lauren Kramer talking, we don't have the staff to to get these projects moving along. So we need to do something. So there was some discussion of more staff paid by PPRTA, but then it was decided that the city would propose Nolte Associates from day one. It's now that firm is now morphed into the NV5, but as far as I know, it's the same firm. And the city requested that PPRTA pay for Nolte consultant staffers to be housed in the cab in the city administration building and to help move projects along, to do the scoping, get the RFPs and then the quotes from the design engineers, and then do the construction bids to help move things out the door. So the PPRTA has been paying for Nolte, now NV5, to provide the staff members that are Nolte staff members, not City Colorado Springs employees, but they're housed in the cab to help move things along. So that is history from pretty much day one, from the middle of 2005. So one answer for you is more Nolte folks to help the city. Now, on the county side, the county opted not to do the Nolte model like the city did, and they are handling all of that in-house with current folks. Maybe they've added folks, but PPRTA has not been paying for any of those folks or for a Nolte equivalent to help the county. Dennis Barron's still here, so he can answer your question about how to get projects out faster on the county side.
Right, and so I thought perhaps a question to the board would be, would they consider adding staff to El Paso County to get, Beacon Light Road, Deer Creek Base Camp, formerly known as Immigrant, Eastonville Road, Fountain Boulevard Security Widefield, Main Street Security, Mesa Ridge Parkway, South Academy Boulevard. All of these projects are not yet started, which to me means they haven't got a contract for a designer and they haven't got a contract for all of those. So would it behoove us as CAC members to broach the question to the board about how we can assist El Paso County? I know PPRTA, I've worked with Nolte on many projects, so I know their status with the city. But with the county, they're doing it all themselves, and so I wondered if there was a possibility the board would be amenable to considering helping out or moving that forward.
It's called job security.
Yeah, I guess. Dennis.
Dennis?
Yeah, Cheryl's right. It's purely a resource issue on the county's part. We've don't have the staff to take on many new additions. We've got an additional program. We continually apply for grant funds. We get grant funds. They generally have a short time framework. There's still some carryover from some of the flood recovery type stuff that have short time frames. So the resources that are available to some degree get assigned to those that have higher priority or short time frameworks. There's just some of the bigger projects just take longer to do, so staff are committed to them, and some are more complicated than others.
When you have to scope it and try to fee it and all that kind of stuff, I perfectly understand, but the question still remains, is that something CAC would like to bring forward in a discussion with the board next week?
It's not appropriate.
Hold that question, Cheryl. Let's see if Tom's got a comment.
Oh, my concern is that if we were to do another NV5 type thing for the county, there could be an argument made that NV5 is actually an administrative burden on top of what the staff here does, and it would blow us out of the water on our 0.7% or 0.07, because that's all they do supposedly is work PPRTA projects. So they're an administrative burden on top of anything else and they're funded 100% by PPRTA.
Okay, Brian?
Just going back in history, back when I was chair of the CAC, and actually way previous to that, The then county commission decided, and this was all the county commissioners, and it was fairly unanimous. They had some discussion on it, but they had decided that they did not want to use the Colorado Springs model because they felt it was not in keeping with the intent of the voters and the ballot language.
But given the new county
What
commissioner.
I think it would be inappropriate for this body to get involved in something that is a county commissioner. Now, we as members can maybe suggest that the county commission rethink, but I would assume that if county staff felt that it was necessary, they would have brought it before the HAC and the county commissioners. We can always generate that, but that's a member government kind of thing, and we shouldn't be involved in dictating that kind of a thing to a member government. We should maybe suggest, hey, have you because we've got a lot of new commissioners, this is something you may want to consider. They go back through the history. The staff can brief them on why certain decisions were made, and they can maybe change their mind. And that would probably come, through the HAC again, and then up to the Board of County Commissioners for reconsideration. So it's not a suggestion I'm opposed to. I just don't think it should come from this body. I think it should come from the county's folks.
And I'd like to kind of piggyback a little bit on that. Cheryl, I think I sense where you're coming from in terms of getting more progress in the county done faster. But I think that going anything other than expressing a concern would border on telling a member entity what we think they should do with their money. The county has decided that they don't want to spend RTA money for that additional function, and they can get more bang for the buck out of extending the projects over a longer period of time versus spending administrative to speed them up. But there's nothing, as a member of the HAC, I think it would be well within your purview to suggest that to the county commissioners through the HAC, not necessarily through this body, would be my opinion.
You guys have taken it in a different direction than what I intended. My intent was not to offer a solution to the board of PPRTA, but to raise the issue of the perception that the progress is moving slower and let them decide what their next step should be. That's it.
Okay.
I understand, Nolte and Associates and additional administrative burden, which I find onerous at times, but that's how it is with the city. But there are, El Paso County can make some additional or some other arrangement, some other, pay for it out of county funds. I'm not suggesting a solution. I'm simply saying, as a member of this committee, that we ought to bring to their attention that we are concerned about the progress El Paso County is making on some of the projects because of other priorities. The flooding was a prime example. The Black Forest Fire was a prime example of diversion of resources that they have. And the perception may be, I'm not the guru on that, but the perception may be that El Paso County needs more resources to get these projects done. And you look at the Gazette Telegraph, listen how old that makes me, but the Gazette on the letters to the editor about why aren't these things being done? Why aren't you moving along with this more quickly? And that is an issue from a citizen's perspective.
All right, just a minute. Rick had his hand up.
Just said that it sounds to me like we're in full circle, and we're back to the HAC going to the commissioners and bringing it up to that, and then bringing it to us. I mean, that's kind of what I'm understanding.
Okay. Lawrence, you had your hand.
Yeah, I think, Cheryl, I think I'd go along with your comments, is that I think we see that problem, but we need, as members of the HAC, need to bring that up to our county commissioner contacts,
Yep.
and say, hey, because I don't think it's appropriate for this committee to bring it up, at this point, because what we're looking at is just the county, side of it. And I agree with you, there's a lot of projects on there that, like Eastonville Road. Man, I'd like to have that thing taken care of, but I think what we need to do is maybe like next month at the HAC, bring that up to our county commissioner contacts and say, hey, here's the numbers, here's the projects, and one of them I'd like to see, like I say, is Eastonville Road. And what can we do on the county side to get those projects moving along?
Okay, Joan?
If we can just kind of move this along a little bit, I do appreciate where Cheryl's coming from, but having been a former HAC member, I totally think that this is in the HAC's purview to go after that, and it would be my recommendation not to bring this up at our joint meeting, but to let the HAC members speak with their county commissioner liaisons and maybe report back at another time what the county's input or decision might be on it. But I just don't think that it's appropriate right now for us.
Okay. Let me, I guess I neglect, do you want to say anything, Doug?
I'll pass this conversation on to Jennifer.
Okay.
I mean, she
Just for some of our new members, just a little bit of a very brief background on these joint sessions. Some of them in years past have been maybe contentious is not the right word, but there's been hefty discussions on certain topics that we've moved beyond. But it's really just an opportunity for us to sit across directly from the board, you guys as a committee, to look the board eye to eye and have an open discussion about things that are on our mind or things that might be on their mind. The one last year, we kind of stood there and stared at each other. There really weren't any issues compared to some other issues in previous time. But I think that having interact with those guys as much as I do in sitting in this position is it's an opportunity for them to look at us and tell you guys, they tell me and Reb and those that are at the meetings all the time, but to look to you and say how much they appreciate what we do as a committee that takes the pressure off of them. And so, you know, I prefer, we haven't heard it yet, but I prefer that we don't dig up any dead horses and start kicking them around again. We're not talking about vehicles, damn it, okay? But it's an opportunity if you, we've in the past, we've solicited these things, and you submit a topic and we bring it up and we submit it to the board. But it's really your opportunity as a committee to talk to the board about things that are on your mind, or we agree as a committee to take to the board. I don't have any issues that I'm aware of that similar to what we've had in the past where, you know, we have anything burning, but Brian, maybe Brian does.
No, nothing.
No vehicles.
Yeah, nothing burning. No, the vehicle thing's been.
And no ped bridge, Okay.
Yeah, well, I can't make promises. No. One of the things I found very useful in the past is when we do the, at the very beginning, we do the introductions, and everybody kind of goes through their backgrounds, including the board members, so that we get, because there are some commissioners that we might not have, some board members, not just commissioners, but board members that we may not get contact with all the time. Kind of gives us an idea of what everybody's background is and who everybody is and why, you know, why they're here, why we're so crazy.
Yeah. Okay, Ed, you've had your hand up, sorry.
Yeah, going back to Cheryl's original comment, I think it would be appropriate to mention this aspect in front of the commissioners that are here, because we will have 3 county commissioners here at HAC. We often only have 1. And I'm not sure all the information is getting back. And we don't have to go into the minutiae or you know.
Solutions.
But, you know, just make them aware that, okay, previous commissioners felt this way, but we do have an opportunity to speed things up, maybe looking at this. And I'm obviously on hack and very open to that, and I think it would give us an opportunity to have her message get back to the commissioners faster than the way we're doing it through a hack process, which would take a little longer.
You know,
I think it's beneficial in the long run.
and I guess we could go two ways with this. We could have an agreement of all the things that are going to be discussed, or it's an open forum and an individual can speak their mind. I'm not a controlling kind of person, but I do want to know if you're going to bring up something controversial. You know, and so Cheryl, if you want to bring that up and mention as what you've noticed and your concern, I don't have a problem with it. I just think if you do it as you expressed it, if we go any further in terms of trying to suggest something, it's just an observation, then I think you're perfectly within bounds, in my opinion, as sitting chairs.
Rick, your comments on that?
No comment.
You have the hack chair sitting here.
Joan?
Yeah, I was going to say that over half of the hack is sitting at this table right now. Pretty sure it's going to be discussed.
Okay. Joan?
Just a point of clarification now with these not-to-exceed contract amounts. Do we have in place a firm dollar figure? In other words, is it 300,000? Is it 200,000? Or are we going to, I mean, I don't want to open up Pandora's box, but I'm just, for a point of clarification in my mind, given what's been going on with these, where are we going with these?
For any maintenance contract, there is no limit of change orders, and the change orders do not have to come back to the CAC and the board on the maintenance side. So if you're talking about the, I don't have them with me, they're back over at the table, but if you're talking about a $200,000 maintenance contract with XYZ equipment rental company, the city can do a change order and increase that above the $200,000 on the maintenance side. Now, capital is very different, and there's wording in the one of the two IGAs, I think, is a comprehensive IGA, that on the any capital contract over $25,000 has to, and that's why you get the change order logs, is if it's under 15%, the lesser of 15% or 100,000. Again, this is just capital contracts. 15% or 100,000. If it's under that, then it has to come on the change order log as information. If it's over that, then it has to come back to the CAC and the board for approval. So there's tighter controls on capital, but there's no limit of change orders on the maintenance side.
Okay, I'm not talking about change orders per se, but I'm just,
You're talking about the creep where we've gone up and where there's, you know, we actually had this conversation with the chair and the vice chair last month about in
Oh, the 100 to 200 to
yeah,
to
the
500.
scope that we talked about before of going up where we've, you know, it used to be 100,000 and then it was 200 and it's 250, then it's 3, and then last month they came into 500. We did.
That's what I'm talking about.
Right.
Those
Okay.
kinds of contracts
Okay.
that we had
Right.
5 of today that were carried over from last month. On these vendor contracts that are not bid out, et cetera, they're there for when there's a need for
Right.
their work, et
Right.
cetera. Is there a cap limit on those,
Not that I'm aware of.
or should there be
Then you would have a moving,
discussion about it?
you'd have a moving target. When I say that, I don't
I
disagree with
can't-
you. I don't disagree with you, but that it's a moving target. If you look at Amendment 3 in the, Amendment 23 in the state's constitution, you've got something there that is in, quote, in perpetuity without a Colorado constitutional amendment. It is something that should be handled statutorily. It is money that is, how do I want to say, it's something mandated by the Constitution, state Constitution, and it's something that is subject to, how do I want to say this, to the economic times. A cap is something, well, we've already seen it this year, a tremendous increase in the cost for contracts, well above what was estimated in 2012. In 2012, $100,000 might have been fine. 2017, $300,000 might be fine. Next year, we're in a tougher time. Maybe we go back to 100,000. That's I don't know whether that's a good explanation of it, but literally, I don't think it should be put into a policy.
Let me add, Joan, my personal thought would be that by imposing an administrative limit on contracts that can come forward with a dollar value, takes away the ability to, for a larger contract, for instance, or larger thing, that it's a percentage sometimes for the A&E design or this, that, and another. And so an anticipated $30 million project, they may have a $500,000 or $1 million contract come forward with a 200. So if we limited it to 200 or 500, I think we may be tying the hands of the staff in cases. I think we as a committee hold the opportunity in our hands to express our concern over a dollar value if it doesn't make sense to us, and express that to the board and our concerns about that. Having a policy that simply says you can't come forward with a contract for more than $200,000 or $300,000, I don't think would be in the best interest of the member governments. But that's just my opinion.
What I'm referring to specifically is just one category of that, the ones that are maintenance equipment with the not to exceed.
Why would you care?
Well,
Those are,
I think, go ahead and finish.
okay, I guess maybe that's where my confusion is. We've got contracts where equipment rentals and what have you are there on standby as an on-needed basis, correct?
Right.
Okay. So X dollars is set aside for that contract.
Not set aside.
Well, not to exceed.
Well, but no cash is being set aside. It's simply a list. In this case, it's a list of 5 rental equipment companies, and I'm being Corey right now. It's 5 rental equipment companies that the city might use. They're just all. It's a list of availability. No cash is set aside. As they need a piece of equipment, they will look at their price from each of the 5, and they'll say, I want a paver for 2 months, and contract number 2 on the list it has the low price on a paver, so I, Corey, will grab that paver from contract number 2 for the 2 months. Then I need a skid loader, and I'll look and see, or I need 3 skid loaders. So I'll look and see who has the best price on skid loaders. I'll grab those skid loaders. So it's just it's a menu. It's a restaurant menu. They aren't buying everything. They aren't setting aside all that money. You know, this is 200,000 times 5. That's $1 million. But as Corey said last month, that they're only probably going to use 250 or 300,000 out of the $1 million that is listed on the cafeteria list.
Jake, you had your hand up first.
This is why I had such a hard time with it last month, is because in years past, they've come with a specific list of pavers, 2 skid steers, milling heads. What we've moved to is more of these open-end, not to exceed. And that's, I think, based on how the city does their other contracts, which is why we moved to the on-call concrete, the on-call stormwaters under the roads. Those were piggybacking those on the city's contracts now. And that's why I had a hard time, that's why the detail that we provided for this one,
I've already asked Tom
it
about
shows me that, yes, we did go get bids.
secondary
We're not
going to the
certain
county
that
commission.
it's whatever it costs.
Right.
That's the hangup I had last month. But I'm still not completely comfortable with all these open-end contracts, but this is what it's become. And that's based on the city's model.
Yes, the city staff has, over the years, and increasingly requested and received more flexibility. So as you increase flexibility, you reduce accountability. So it's directly and reversely proportionate. So,
Which makes me uncomfortable if
yeah.
we just push more
Yeah.
to you as far as my side.
But,
That's what they pay in the big.
and so I get the invoices for the pavers and the skid steers, and we pay them, and that's a hit against their total $23 or $25 million maintenance budget, and that's their absolute cap, is their maintenance budget.
Tom, you had your hand up.
Why don't we strongly request that they list these things as indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, or IDIQ contracts then? They try to waffle word around all of this stuff and say not to exceed. Why not just call it what it is? They're not being specific. They're saying, out of this whole list, we may use some of this.
Right, and that's how their whole, not just equipment, that's what it's morphed into.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is their on-call concrete.
Yes.
All of their contracts, they now have a baseline for infrastructure.
Called creeping incrementalism. I'm going to keep pushing it forward with each meeting.
And I was
Jim?
uncomfortable with it as you are, but this is what it's become.
Yeah, and Rev wants to wrap up, but I throw in, we had that very discussion with the board in the past couple of months about this, what we see as a committee, an increasing dollar value on the contracts coming forward, which gives us less visibility into the specifics of what's going on. And the accountability now shifts from this committee to the staff in terms of monitoring are the things that we've awarded a not to exceed or allowed them to a not to exceed amount, but we don't see any of the specifics, just like the change orders and the other stuff. And all of that accountability comes through Rick and Bev now, and we voiced that, but the board has supported it, supported the various requests. So we could certainly raise that as a concern as a committee, but Tom?
Well, they keep listing against a particular fund site number is the easiest way for me to describe it. But if there's $1 million in there and there's 8 of these not to exceeds for $200,000 apiece, well, they've exceeded. If they all went to their full amounts, they would exceed what was available. So there ought to be some type of relationship between the amount of NTEs that they're asking against the actual fund.
And that's Rick and Bev's job when the invoices come in and say, you've exceeded your budget, you've exceeded your maintenance budget for that amount. I mean, that,
But then they've got the argument, but you said we could have.
no, it's their decision. It's not,
I would guess that the on-calls and the not to exceed, the storm, there were 8 or 10 of the stormwaters. There's now 5 of the equipment rentals. There's a bunch of the on-call concretes. If you would add up all those dollar values, I'm sure they way exceed what the maintenance budget is. But that gives them the flexibility because they have no intent of spending $200,000 for each of those 5 equipment rental companies. That's just giving them the maximum flexibility for themselves.
If they have no intention, why are they asking?
It's not a case of intent, it's a case of emergency. And in the case of asphalt paving equipment, if you can go find a paver right now, good luck.
But if,
And I don't care what brand.
if they normally spend, and I thought I heard Corey say they normally spend 250 or 300,000 on rental equipment each summer, then if one vendor is the low on all the equipment, then they might need the 200 or 250 for that one vendor if he has the equipment and he's the low on all the equipment. They're just giving themselves the maximum flexibility for their purposes. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just shows a lot of dollars that might bother some folks.
One of my concerns about the whole process and the shifting of accountability is when do Rick and Bev become the camel whose straw broke its back? Because enough work has been shifted to them that they now have issues with being able to keep up with the amount of work.
Jimmy
There's
just
a balance in there that has to be
Just
struck.
alluded to that.
And I haven't heard Rick or Bev complain since I've been a member of the CAC. And I don't know what their workload is, but the more work that gets shifted to them, eventually, there's more than they can do in the amount of time that they have to allocate to the job.
You can speak to this, but I think it's really, I don't think it's any additional workload, because they're going to get the invoice anyway.
The only additional workload is now that the city has transitioned into the stormwater under the roadway. My self-imposed dollar figure is if there's anything that's 10,000 or over, then I stop working on invoices and I go out and look at those to confirm that work was done. And there have been some of those that are 50,000, 90,000. So that delays getting the invoices paid by maybe half a day over what it had been before the city was doing all this stormwater under the roadway. But that's the only major change right now, and that's not too burdensome.
Okay. All right, so what the issues we want to bring up, David? Welcome.
Thanks.
The meeting's adjourned? Yeah.
I kind of share some of the concern with, I don't like seeing Rick and everybody being responsible for policing right at their budget. Like if they have all these contracts with maximum amounts they can do, so let's say they hit that maximum, then what happens? Do you send back the invoice, say, sorry,
Yeah.
we don't have more money?
Are you talking about, for example, in their maintenance budget of $23 million, and Bev tracks that. If they get to $23 million, then we say we're not paying this. The city has to pay it.
The city has to pay it.
Or the member government, whoever they are.
Has that ever happened? Where they exceeded their annual maintenance?
I'd have to ask Bev. There might have been one with one of the little governments up the past, but I don't think so with city or county. Because they have folks that track it at their end.
Sure.
So that they don't want to be embarrassed by such a case.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's right.
Because they know they'd have to eat it in the general fund, and somebody's going to pay a price for that.
Rick, as of right now, I don't even know if there was consensus. Have you noted any consensus on 2-3 items or anything at all? If not, I personally will be against this, and it'll be personal, but I will be against this group recommending to any government how they run their operation. And yes, I was a member of that. As a matter of fact, I was a chair of that one committee that it belongs to, as far as I'm concerned. I guess it's been opened up, and I don't see any consensus by anybody that there is a specific subject to be discussed in front of the board.
Well, there might be more, but have we gotten everything out that's on your minds?
God, I hope so.
I think what we did in the past too is if anybody comes up with anything in past years ago.
Yes, and that's a good point. If you think of something that you want to bring up, please let Rick know so that we're semi-prepared for, we can wear our flak jacket or helmet or something when we go to, no, but I think it's just common courtesy. If you got something that's burning, let Rick know so that he kind of knows what to expect might come up.
Yeah, I'll type it up and then hand it out, have 25 copies of whatever you send me.
I'm not interested in seeing loggerheads or conflicts between
No, yeah.
two groups.
Oh.
But I guess I'm sometimes confused or questioning maybe sometimes the role of the CAC versus don't ask questions about member governments or how they want to do their job versus what we read each month as our charge as a hack, and maybe, and I agree with Reb's question, with new people on there, what do you expect from us, and what is our mission?
That was a misstatement, hack instead of CAC.
Pardon me?
A misstatement, hack instead of CAC.
Yeah, I've had a little trouble with these hack members preferring to hack and hack. It's the same.
Well, there's so many of us on here, it might as well just be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, yeah.
That's
The acronyms after a while, you turn those muddled. That's worse than the government. Be that as it may.
I empathize very much with what you're saying because speaking for myself, the length of time I've been on here, my trust in one of the member governments was, in my opinion, abused. And therefore, I am overly skeptical whenever something comes up now, and I examine everything with a fine-tooth comb as a result. And until that trust is restored, it has to be earned back. So I do understand where you're going. And my personal opinion is, based on our charge, I don't give deference to someone just because they are an expert or they have a degree. If they can't explain it to me in layman's terms so that I can explain it to our constituencies, then there's an issue. So I don't go with they're the experts, they're the appointed professional staff. We should just defer to them and not ask questions. I'm going to ask the questions. So I think there's a lot of people who will, if they have a question. We should feel free, and we shouldn't feel, shut down any member who may actually have a legitimate question, because there's a lot of times in the past where we've brought up questions here at the CAC that have resulted in not only policy changes, but have resulted in things being discovered that would have otherwise been overlooked, and has generated good discussion to prevent issues from coming up in the future. So I see that as part of our role.
Any other discussion on this topic then? I don't have any personal concern on a personal nature or from the chair of any of the topics we've discussed. So if you want to bring them up, bring them up. It kind of falls into some of it, particularly Joan's issue, kind of falls in a topic that I've had with the chair and and the vice chair of the board a number of times, and that is, as a body, our concern about that creeping thing that's gone up. And but so far, as a board, they haven't chosen to address it and put some type of limit on there. So bring it up and let's see in an open dialogue what they think about it. Be good discussion. Anything else on that? Well, I would like to see you guys, as many of you that can come. I know that people have other commitments, but it's your opportunity to meet the board and for them to meet you. So.
Yes.
Rick, will you give us an update of what you expect in terms, so we don't come in at 3
Or 2:30.
expecting we were going to see some commissioner or some board members and they've gone already, or vice versa, we don't get here until.
Let's see, I think it's scheduled for 2:30, because
Scheduled at 3 right now.
No.
No, it's scheduled at 2:30 now.
I'll double check. Yes, Bethany? Okay.
I read the one for the one that I got with the board meeting.
Yeah, and maybe that's my fault. So, help me guess how long the board meeting's going to take, based on this meeting.
Well, this
45 minutes.
This meeting would have been done at 2:30.
Okay, so do you split the difference, make it 2:45, or should I make the joint at 2:30?
2:30, I'm just going by the one that I saw
Yes.
emailed last night.
Okay.
If this meeting lasts more than 45 minutes, I'll be surprised at the
Okay.
board level. But
So 2:30, I'll make sure it's 2:30.
okay.
Is it a problem for
They don't want to be there any longer than they have to be.
But is it any
All right.
problem for the board, because some of them have other things and they like to get the heck out of Dodge?
Okay. All right. We'll let the board members worry about that.
Yes.
Any topics for next month's meeting that anybody want to bring up or have present? I'm thinking that whatever, I would like to see an update from Corey on to see progress, not next month, whatever is his normal reporting period that he does. I don't want to create an extra briefing, but whenever he next time reports out to that group that he reports to, I ask him if he wouldn't mind coming and update us.
Okay.
And then Rick has one topic under communications that we want to pass around to everybody.
Take one and pass it. I received, this will only take about 90 seconds. I received an email from what appears to be a student at Hamline University, never heard of it, in St. Paul, Minnesota, who's for Hamlin, okay, thanks, who's allegedly working on her MPA, because you don't know anything that's sent over the internet. And she's asking to talk to each of you, or whichever ones of you who want to talk to her. She's doing a survey about CACs, Citizen Advisory Committees. So I can forward this electronically to all of you, and then you'll have the link.
She's a coordinator for our CAC in Ramsey County. Rick asked me about this, and I asked him to bring it forward.
Oh, sorry, Dave.
To bring it forward, whether you want, just let him send the link out and you choose to participate as you see fit or not. But I didn't want to send it out without you guys knowing first what this was about and have a chance to discuss it. So
Has anybody?
Send it out, and those who want to answer can answer. I've done some of these in the past, and it's been interesting, and I know that students who, friends of mine especially who have gotten doctorates, do these kinds of data collection things as part of their thesis and so forth. And so I think it's just up to
Has anyone vetted to make sure she's not from Montenegro?
We,
No.
well, it was a discussion, the first question I asked Rick was, does it have an EDU extension? And it does have her name in it, so that is at least a university. And Hamlin is an accredited school, and it's in that area, so we've done that much vetting anyway, but.
You do have to be careful with those because you can spoof those emails.
Yeah, so. Well, you choose whether you want to participate or not.
I wish she had left her number.
Yeah. Well, you got her email. You've got her
So
email.
you can actually verify that this is actually a real thing because you can spoof email addresses. It happens all the time.
All right.
That's why I said alleged.
You can send her an email and see if she responds. Anything else for anybody? All right, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.